Survivors of attempted murder, what is your story? I met Jenna, real name, the summer before 5th grade started. My family was stationed in Arizona that summer, and I hated it. She was my first friend, and over time, she became my best friend. She had a rough home life. Her dad went to prison for dealing meth, which was strange because they had a nice house and seemed totally normal. He was later murdered in prison. Jenna's mom was always off. She was highly intelligent, but her eyes were flat and empty, like a shark's. She did weird things constantly. From 5th to 7th grade, she started physically abusing Jenna, but we could never prove it. It always happened when they were alone, and she acted like a model citizen in public. Fuck you, Arizona CPS, for being absolute garbage. Her paternal grandparents had been fighting in family court to get custody so Jenna could live with them. Her mom's house and her grandparents' house were only 5 blocks apart, in the same neighborhood. By the summer we turned 12, her mom's behavior deteriorated rapidly. I can't explain it. She made you feel like you were in danger without ever saying a word. One day, she had iron bars installed over all the windows and doors of their house. Honestly, that's pretty common in southern Arizona, but my mom didn't like it. She came by one day and stripped the screws in Jenna's window bars so they looked shut but couldn't be tightened, meaning the bars would swing open if pushed. It was a Friday night, one of the last before 8th grade. Jenna's mom had been acting strange for weeks. Jenna was struggling to sleep, plagued with nightmares, so I stayed over. Around 4 a.m., her mom rattled the doorknob of Jenna's locked bedroom. I could hear her muttering, then going outside to open the shed. That was enough to wake Jenna up. Moments later, her mom jiggled the handle again, harder this time, and I knew it was bad. I shoved Jenna toward the window, pushed the bars open, and right then her mom started slamming the door with full force. It wasn't until I got Jenna halfway through the window that an axe came straight through the bedroom door. We bolted. Once outside, I grabbed Jenna's face and told her, "Don't turn around. We are going to run. Don't stop." We sprinted barefoot, in the middle of the night, 5 blocks to her grandparents' house. Her mom was only about 20 feet behind us, wearing underwear, swinging a double-edged axe. We were screaming bloody murder the entire way. People came outside but didn't do a damn thing. We couldn't slow down to see their reactions. When we turned onto her grandparents' street, we screamed "Grandma Bev!" over and over. Thank God, the carport light flipped on and Bev opened the security door. We flew inside just as Jenna's mom slammed into it. I was told later that once I reached the kitchen, I collapsed on the floor and screamed until my mom arrived. The cops had to physically subdue Jenna's mom. She was charged with multiple felonies, including 2 counts of attempted murder, only because she admitted in court that the axe hidden under Jenna's bed was her intended murder weapon, but since we'd locked the door, she had to grab another. She's locked up for life. Jenna was murdered by her husband in 2007.
If you're enjoying this, subscribe.
I was shot twice in the head while camping in a Forest Service campground, so, not on some guy's property. This asshole woke me up in the middle of the night with a strobe light. I had never met him, and I definitely hadn't done anything to him. He was on meth and, I guess, went cruising for some murdering, and thankfully, he fucked it up. I woke up to my tent flashing. There was no cell service whatsoever where I was camping. So after a period of being completely dazed and confused, I decided I would just face whatever was coming. I got out of my tent expecting something to happen pretty quick, but nothing did. The strobe light was set up a bit behind my car, so I was pretty sure going for my car was the wrong call, but I honestly didn't know what to do. I stood there for a while with my phone's flashlight, trying to think of something, when he finally decided to act. The first shot grazed the back of my head and nicked my ear. It scared the shit out of me and spun me around a bit. The second bullet hit between my ear and beard and knocked me over sideways. The impact was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Thankfully, it hit at an angle and was a small caliber. I never got a clear answer about which caliber, so instead of destroying my brain, it bounced off my skull and shattered most of the bones in my cheek and around my eye. I lay there on my tent, deciding to just let him take whatever he wanted, and focused intensely on my breathing until I heard the loudest truck I've ever heard start up and drive away. Thinking back, I still don't understand why he shot me and didn't even steal anything. I'm pretty sure I was repeating this over and over at the first hospital, but at the time my thought was simply, well, time to get up. So I pushed myself to my feet, found my glasses, and went to my car. My glasses, and everything else, were covered in blood, so I grabbed a bottle of water and started cleaning them when I heard the truck come back. I completely freaked out. I tried to hide by leaning down into the passenger seat, but my car was packed with camping gear, so I couldn't get very low. I guess it was enough though, because he just drove a loop around the campground and then left again. I quickly finished cleaning my glasses, wiped off the fogged up windshield so I could see, and started the car. I managed to back out of my space and drove out of the campground and down the highway. Eventually, I found a big pull-off area that just barely had cell service and called 911. By then, I was pretty out of it and throwing up a lot, but I managed to tell the amazingly patient woman who answered where I was. 3 surgeries and 7 nights in the hospital later, I've lost most of the vision in one eye, and one of the muscles in my jaw had to be surgically detached. Somehow, though, I don't have any hearing loss, just some pretty bad tinnitus. Thankfully, the police caught the guy pretty quickly, and he's still awaiting trial. My biological mother is schizophrenic and decided to go off her medications once again. During that time, she convinced herself that I would be safer with the angels than living among all the demons. Some of these were straight-up delusions, while others were fueled by pure paranoia. She took me into the bathroom, filled up the tub, and nearly succeeded in drowning me. She would have, had the man she was living with at the time not walked in at the exact moment. He dragged her off me and started administering CPR until the EMTs arrived. Thankfully, that incident finally pushed the courts to remove me from her custody and officially declare her an unfit parent. Honestly, it could have been prevented if the courts had just connected the dots earlier. She had already been declared unfit twice in custody battles involving my younger siblings. You'd think someone would have said, if she's unfit to care for them, maybe she's unfit to care for her eldest too. But this was 24 years ago, when the court system was even worse than it is today about these kinds of cases. The only lasting damage I really carried from that event was a deep phobia of bathtubs throughout most of my childhood and into my late teens. As a kid, I was so terrified of them that I'd have panic attacks if I even had to use the toilet in a bathroom with a tub in it. Over time, that extreme fear lessened into more of an aversion and strong dislike. I wouldn't have panic attacks anymore, but I still couldn't bring myself to use a tub. Eventually, though, I did manage to get over it. I got my first job on the day I turned 16, but my parents didn't let me get my driver's license until I was 17. That meant my mom had to drive me to work after school on the days it was too cold to walk, and it was always an issue. As usual, I was in my uniform, waiting for her by the garage. She was running late, and if I waited much longer, I was going to be late for work. I reminded her of the time I had to be there, and she just exploded. Screaming that I was selfish and ungrateful, she grabbed me by the arm and dragged me to the car. As soon as the garage door opened, she tore down the residential street, easily going over 70 miles per hour. I was terrified. She kept yelling at me and driving like a maniac. Maybe 150 yards ahead, there was a truck stopped at a stop sign. She was still going full speed, not even looking at the road, her eyes locked on me as she screamed. She was about to slam right into it, so I grabbed the passenger handle and yelled, "Brake! You're going to kill us." That moment is burned into my memory. I shouted, she slammed on the brakes, stared right at me, and in a dead, quiet voice said, "Good." Then she hit the gas again, picking up speed. I believed her. I was convinced she was about to kill us both in a crash. Desperate for a way out, I thought the only chance I had to survive was to jump out of the car. She must have realized what I was thinking, because the second I unbuckled my seatbelt and reached for the door handle, she slammed the brakes again. I was thrown into the windshield and broke my nose instantly. Blood was everywhere, and the car went completely silent. I got out, and she just drove away without saying a word. I walked the rest of the way to work, and my boss ended up taking me to urgent care. My mom has been an addict my whole life, on top of being a narcissist. At that time, she was going through withdrawal. I remember that week vividly, and she tried to kill me. Today, I live on the other coast and have almost no contact with her. My oldest brother was a Marine. He came home from the war in rough shape, struggling with severe PTSD. He was afraid to seek help, or thought it wouldn't be worthwhile. Still, he had made progress after getting out of the Marines. He had a good FIFO job, a girlfriend, and had even started a band. But he also struggled with substance abuse. My brothers and I were best friends. We were really close. One night, when I was 20, I picked up my brothers from a bar. We got into a fight in the car. He was in the back seat and tried to choke me out while I was driving. He wanted me to take him somewhere, but I had other things to do and was just trying to take them home. I remember my other brother diving into the back seat to pull him off me as things started going dark. I managed to stop the car. They spilled into the street fighting, and I thought it was over. It wasn't. That same night, my oldest brother went to the other brother's house, broke in while he was sleeping, and beat the hell out of him, threw him through a wall. To give context, our sister was supposed to get married that Saturday. This was Tuesday night. The following Wednesday morning, they fought again at my parents' house. Someone called the police, and my oldest brother was sent to the hospital for a psych evaluation. He passed, not really. The person who evaluated him wasn't even a doctor and wasn't qualified to perform the eval. He was released. At the time, I was living with my parents. Early Friday morning, after the rehearsal dinner, around 1 a.m., he broke into the house. He was drunk, yelling at my parents in their bedroom. I stood in the doorway and saw he had his .357 revolver. I felt in my bones this wasn't going to end well, so I tried to grab the gun. We started fighting. He was twice my size. He slammed me against the wall and pistol whipped me in the forehead, splitting it open. He shot my father in the back. Then he shot me in the chest, and then killed himself right in front of me. He fell on top of my mother, snapping her leg. To this day, 5 years later, she still has trouble walking. There was blood everywhere, 3 people bleeding to death in one room. My lung collapsed. I can still remember the sensation of my chest bubbling with every breath, drowning in my own blood. Police flooded the house about 15 to 20 minutes later. I flatlined twice. Spent 10 days in the ICU and 2 more weeks in the hospital. Lost half my left lung, 4 shattered ribs, permanent nerve damage. But I'm alive, and so is my father. To this day, I wonder if I had just driven him where he wanted to go, how different things might have been. I miss him every day. He wasn't an evil person. He wasn't a bad person. He just needed help. We now run a non-profit in his name. When I was crew, we all lived in company accommodation, about 2 people per apartment. My friend got recruited along with a girl who was an ex-Northern Irish police officer. This girl was built like a brick house. She got placed in an apartment with a Thai girl who was tiny. They'd had a few small disagreements over things like dirty dishes and noise, but nothing major. Then, one night, the Thai girl woke up to the ex-Northern Irish girl on top of her, strangling her. Adrenaline must have kicked in because she somehow managed to fight her off. She ran for the door, but the Northern Irish girl had moved all the bedroom furniture in front of it. As she was trying to move the furniture, the girl jumped on her again. She grabbed something nearby to hit her with and managed to get free, running out of the apartment. By the time she got downstairs and found security, the attacker was gone. By the time police arrived, she had already fled the country. This girl had planned enough to buy herself a plane ticket, pack up her valuables, and even move the furniture in front of the door. Luckily for the Thai girl, the attacker was too drunk to function properly. I guess the real lesson here is, always wash your dishes. When I was in my early to mid-teens, I was walking through the neighborhood with 3 friends when an old man in a truck slowed down as he passed us and gave us a hard stare. He pulled over just ahead on the side road we were walking on. As we kept going, he got out and started following us. Honestly, I thought he was just someone who needed directions. We walked to the end of the road, where it intersected with the main road that had plenty of lights, just to be on the safe side. Under the lights, I walked over to meet him, still thinking this old man, who looked like Santa Claus, needed some kind of help. He walked up like we were about to have a polite chat. but he was difficult to understand. Maybe it was an accent, maybe he was mumbling, maybe just old. I leaned in closer to try to make out what he was saying, and he sucker punched me in the jaw. It hurt, but I didn't go down. Turns out he was drunk and angry. The nearest home was a family friend's, so one friend and I went there to call the police, then hurried back to the scene. By the time we got back, the old man was gone, but his truck was still running in the road. My friends were standing by the truck and explained that he had walked back toward it, but then kept going into a nearby house. Moments later, he came back out carrying a shotgun. We bolted into a small wooded patch nearby and hid behind some large boulders while he started looking for us. Fortunately, that's when the police arrived. They held him at gunpoint until he dropped the shotgun and surrendered. I still have no idea what set him off or why he targeted us. It just seemed like a case of irrational damn kids, get off my lawn anger, the kind of thing only some bitter old people seem to understand. About 8 years ago, I was walking outside at night, around 11 p.m. I had just left my friend's house and needed to get home since I had school and work the next day. On my way to the bus stop, two guys, an average-sized black guy and a smaller white guy, intercepted me. My first reaction was that maybe they had a question. Instead, the first thing they said was, "Follow us to our car." My reaction was, no. They started pushing me around, the white guy pulling me back by my backpack. At first, I resisted, saying, "Fuck no. What do you guys want?" They kept pushing me, and I kept fighting back, until the black guy suddenly pulled out a pistol and pointed it at me. I froze instantly. I followed them a bit. The car was only about 15 meters away, but even with the gun pointed at me, I felt getting into that car would be worse. So I kept resisting. I don't even know what I was thinking. The white guy pushed me to the ground and started punching me in the face multiple times while the black guy ripped my backpack out of my hands. Fortunately, the house next to us lit up, and the owner came outside after hearing my screams. The two guys immediately bolted to their car and sped off. Shocked, I still made sure to look at their license plate, and my memory basically took a photo of it. I still remember the plate number to this day. The homeowner and his wife helped me up, cleaned the blood off my face, and called the police. In the end, I didn't suffer any lasting injuries, though I still get chills whenever I walk alone at night. For those wondering what happened to those guys, the police later got them on other charges, worse ones, and both are still in prison today. One weekend, a couple of friends and I decided to take our dirt bikes to the track. We unloaded at one of their houses and planned to ride there. It was only about 1.5 miles through residential areas. As long as you're not an asshole, most people don't care. Well, John cared. He cared a lot. Some backstory on John: he's a 5-time convicted felon, mostly for drug and assault charges. At the time of this incident, he was drunk and high. He came running out into the road swinging some kind of club, trying to knock one of my buddies off his bike. He missed, obviously, and we all kind of brushed it off like, "Wow, that was weird," and kept going. But John wasn't done. He jumped into his piece of shit pickup, grabbed his revolver, and chased us down. We were riding along a power line trail next to the road when he caught up. He slammed his truck into the ditch, nearly hitting me. I was in the lead, then jumped out and started emptying his .357 at us. My friends were far enough back to turn tail and get the hell out of there, but I wasn't. I was already past this drunk, methed out piece of human garbage. As I stopped to assess my options, John started reloading. I was in an unfamiliar area, with no phone, no vehicle, other than my bike, and most importantly, no gun. All of those things were 1/2 mile away, on the other side of John, who now stood in the middle of the road, waving his pistol around and screaming at me. So, I decided to go for it. I rode straight at him down the road, and about 100 yards away, I dropped into the ditch and pinned it in 5th gear. I'm not a religious man, but I prayed to whatever gods were listening that day. Somehow, I made it. I heard all 6 shots spark out of that gun at me, but I didn't let go of that throttle until I was back at my truck. I ditched the bike, grabbed my phone, called 911, then grabbed my gun and went looking for my friends. I found them, we loaded their bikes, and waited for the cops. I have never in my life wished someone dead as much as that man. All because we had the audacity to ride through his neighborhood on dirt bikes. He decided he was going to kill us. No one that mentally unstable deserves to be out there. He got 1 year in prison. 1 year. That's my answer to your question. I never leave home without a gun now, and I know how to use it. I'll never be in that position again. That day, I had only one option, and I could have died. No one gets that kind of power over me. I had an ex-friend who set up my roommate in what detectives later called a legitimate hit. One night he called me to go to Walmart. It was around midnight, I had just gotten off my second shift job, and late-night shopping was normal for me. I picked him up, but then realized I'd left my wallet at home. We drove back, and I left him in the truck while I went inside. I guess he thought we still had time to leave before anything went down. He never tried to stop me. Meanwhile, the hit squad was hiding in my neighbor's bushes and saw me use my keys to get in. Instead of kicking in the door, they decided to stick me up and take my keys. As I was about to get back into my truck, I heard pounding footsteps racing toward me. I turned around and saw a guy with pantyhose over his face and an AR-15 strapped to his shoulder. At the same time, another guy ran to the passenger side of my truck, where my ex-buddy was sitting. The first guy yelled, "Give me your keys." They were in my hand, so I threw them as far as I could away from everyone. Ironically, he called me a stupid motherfucker and turned his back to watch where the keys landed. That gave me my chance. I grabbed the barrel of his rifle, ripped out the banana clip, and started beating him with it. Rounds were flying everywhere as we wrestled. With the gun still strapped to him, we spun around like a tornado, him screaming for his accomplice to shoot this fool. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the second guy coming around. First, he tried to pistol whip me, but then he stepped back, drew his 9mm low from his hip like a cowboy, and made this evil face, baring his teeth so wide they almost looked like a mask. That image is burned into me, just teeth and his stance. Right before I heard it, bam, it echoed in my head 5 or 6 times before I actually felt it. Then suddenly my insides exploded. Just like in the cartoons, it felt like there was a straight hole clean through me. I fell, waiting for the next hollow point to rip into me. Instead, they ran off to their getaway driver. I heard 2 more shots, and for a moment I thought they had just killed my buddy. But then he started screaming, "I've been shot. Oh my God, I've been shot in the chest." I told him to conserve his strength, stop yelling, calm down. Weirdly, I was pretty calm myself. I kept pressure on my side, but blood was gushing out of my exit wound. I couldn't stand up, though I desperately wanted to crawl back inside my house. I remember thinking, I'd rather bleed out on my kitchen floor than in the grass. Later, I found out I had been hit on the left side of my stomach, through my pelvis, with the bullet blowing out my 2 bottom left ribs in the back. In the ER, they cut me open to check my organs and clean out bone fragments. A few days later, I also learned my right shoulder was broken. The only fix was surgery, screws inserted, right after they took the staples out of my stomach. Nothing ended up being life-threatening, but it was brutal. The shooters were charged with attempted murder along with other charges. Ironically, the only reason they got caught was because my ex-friend, the one who set it up, turned them in. The crew had wanted him silenced for that exact reason. He actually took 4 bullets that night, twice under his right armpit before the guy shot me, then 2 more in the back as they ran off. Somehow, he lived. Later, he saw the shooter's mugshot from the next county, took it straight to detectives, and said, "This is the guy who shot us." Not long after, the cops rounded them up. They all ended up with about 9 years on a plea deal. The DAE even called me to ask if I was okay with it. Honestly, I didn't know what else to say besides, yeah, lock 'em up. I only found out about the setup maybe a year ago. The shooter's brother has no problem telling anyone that his brother got caught because my so-called friend turned him in.